Yeah, what curfew horn sound like? The Silent Hill horn.
Oh. Alright.
Whoops.
Oh, we're not.
Dokily dokily.
Hello, people in chat.
People in chat? Ah!
It's time for us to creatively narrate Lynn's fanfiction about her ancestors.
There you go, live with you guys.
Creative narrating. Awesome.
I kind of like
Yes.
the framing device.
This game looks awesome on my laptop. Yes.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, hey, hey! If it ain't my lil boss! How you doing, ain't I? Having a mighty fine day?
I could watch a TV series.
And I
on this.
looked at what little sky could be seen among the rooftops. The sun wasn't even out yet.
I know what you're thinking. Why is this fine buck loitering around the temple so early? Well, none of that. You had me so worried. So worried that I just had to come down and check up on you. And sure enough, here you are. And here I am. First again. Yep. I'm just killing it tonight.
He's dead inside.
First in the contest of people acting suspiciously, that's for sure. But of course, Anna couldn't say a word about it.
Of course.
She signaled Adder to follow her into the forge since he was already there. The workday would have to start early. Work at the forge meant something like this. Anna worked on her craft, and then she gave Adder whatever menial task would make him feel useful. She didn't have any proper accreditation that named her a smith, so he wasn't technically her apprentice either. But that didn't really matter to either of them.
Rivet here, rivet there. And this weird one's going to my rivet collection.
It's very riveting work.
Yeah. Something different about Adder that day. Something had changed. She could feel it.
Hey, boss. If you're all done staring at me, I'm gonna get back to work. Those shields won't rivet themselves.
Note to Maxi, you accidentally swapped his eye patch right here. Or he's facing the wrong direction. Lies. After hours upon hours of hard work, I guess, it was time for a break. Lunchtime! The most tranquil time of the day for both Adder and Aina. Not that either were ever under any real stress, mind you, but the predictability of lunchtime itself helped ease Aina's turbulent temperament and Adder's talkative stomach.
What do we got in store today, boss? Is it tater time? Is it tater time yet?
Adder had long since dubbed this short period away from the forge as potato time, since that was always on the menu at Chez Aina. Chez Aina. Today was double potato time, since she'd forgotten to get him some food the day before.
Look at them taters! They're so tiny and cute! Oh boy, they look so freshly dug out, one of them still got dirt on it!
Dirt adds extra flavor!
They're not a problem, boss! They're just... ugh.
Huh? Well, that didn't sound like an Adder sound.
Did these things always taste like this?
Adder tried his very best not to look absolutely disgusted as he turned 20 or so tiny raw potatoes into puree with his pestle-like teeth.
Ah, what a wonderful scene! My favorite furry potato and temple turnip sharing a meal after their heartfelt reunion.
Totally ships them.
Illograb's enormous face appeared next to the window. Adder, for once, didn't scream into panic.
You don't look so good, Adder. Don't tell me you stayed up all night looking for your sweetheart.
I stayed up all night to get saw.
Wait, so this
Good
why the
old
forge is on
Grab.
the second floor?
Sleep is for bucks that ain't got a lady waiting for them.
Yeah, it seems like that.
Yeah.
How?
Why?
Why would you build a forge on the second floor? That's like tons and tons of stone.
Well, maybe there's more forges on the bottom floor.
Because they don't want
It's
people
like a
to-
communal chimney where it's just forges all the way up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Forges all the way down.
How would you avoid people getting burned? Like casual Wanderers.
There's no need to be so dramatic, lover boy. Aina's a grown-up. She knows when she wants some space. And it's your duty as an upstanding citizen to respect the wishes of a lady. Or else.
Your bribe is ready, you upstanding lubberwort!
Fine! It's a fine, not a bribe.
His footsteps never cease to amuse me.
Adder cast his gaze down as Illigrab walked away, leaving him alone before Aina's judgment. Or he would have been judged if Aina hadn't turned 20 shades of red and become incapable of rational thought after Adder failed to deny that she was his sweetheart.
Hey, boss! I gotta get early today. I need to get back my, Goff's hat from the tavern. You know what they say, the hat makes the stag, and he ain't no one without it.
Huh?
Why can't he go get it like a grown-up? Well, that's because he broke his leg. Gosh, no, it ain't broke, no ma'am. That dumbass just went and twisted his hoof the wrong way. Yep. Okay, bye, see you tomorrow.
Adder ran away, muttering something that sounded very much like prayers to himself.
Why is he praying to himself?
I don't know.
Is he a god?
One strange day wasn't anything to be afraid of. And as apprentice something a year.
These are some lovely taters, boss. Perfect potatoes. But
Potatoes.
no more biting my tummy if I tried. No, ma'am. I'm just gonna take these home and stuff my face in front of Goff later. I ain't sharing a single one with him. Nope. No way I'm giving all them taters to him or anything. Yep.
You're so convincing. So convincing.
Aina was more than happy to collaborate in any plan that involved making life harder for the contestant to worship art and heirloom, but the strange days passed and they kept passing.
And they know.
And that's
They
what
don't
I
stop
told
coming,
the king.
yes.
Bite me. You should have seen my father's face. His leaves dried right up. I spent a whole moon literally grounded.
What do you mean you don't remember who broke into the warehouse?
I don't know, Master. It's like the memory had vanished from my mind.
I'm gonna vanish you from existence!
Both there began clashing hordes while Adder and Illigrab stared at the scene.
Can you believe that?
I know! Can't deer go 10 minutes without starting a fight? No offense, kiddo.
No, I mean, can you believe he forgot someone that important just like that? Can people really forget?
Sorry, Adder, I don't have time to get into philosophical debates. Those two have just earned themselves a free ride to the dungeon.
Skull took an unexpected direction toward the city guard's main tower in the northeastern quarter of the inner walls. It was the second highest tower in the city, with ceilings tall enough that Illigrab could walk inside. Adder had to go fetch Geoff from there every so often, so he was relatively welcome as long as he had Illigrab by his side.
Take it to court next time. Street fights are strictly prohibited. Are we clear?
Watch out, who told me.
Both of the prisoners uttered a disheartened, "Yes, sir," and Illigrab nodded to himself.
Hey, Illigrab.
Yes, tree
I was
dad.
wondering, you could throw anyone in the dungeon, right?
Yes, that is one of the benefits of being a policeman.
Well, I wouldn't say anyone, but I do have a pretty good grasp on Heirloom's populace, if I may say so myself. Hey, I could even set you up in a pretty cell if you ever want to leave Goff's place.
I'm all good. I was just wondering if you'd seen never mind.
A never mind? What's that, some kind of flower?
The prettiest in the kingdom.
And Aina just appears. That didn't end there either. Strange days soon turned to strange weeks.
Pour a grape on him.
Clink, clink, clink.
You
with
liked
a
it, then you
hammer
should have put
in
a
Aina's
grape
fortune.
on it.
There was another incessant noise. It sounded like the bellows that lit up the furnace. Its source was, of course, Adder looking out the window, sighing like he wanted to empty his lungs. The semi-nocturnal roommate, and what may count among the 10 worst beds in the world, dozing off, spacing out, or generally getting distracted in his job was nothing out of the ordinary for Adder. Sighing, however, that was definitely out of the norm, and he'd been doing that an awful lot lately. Stranger yet, Adder hadn't noticed that Aina had been standing right behind him for quite a while now.
What? Huh? Hey, boss! I was just thinking about my things. You know, rivets and stuff. No worries, ma'am. I got this. I'm all focused now.
Thunk, thunk, thunk went Adder's hammer, and yet Aina wouldn't leave his side.
Anything else?
Aina put a hand over Adder's in what may have been the most confusing gesture this side of Lake Teisel. Adder looked down at it rather blankly, only to find that he was holding the hammer by its head.
Wow-wee, that's dumb even for me. You seen my brain lately, boss? I don't know where I left it. Sorry, boss.
Clink, clink, clink with the hammers, and it wasn't reassuring at all.
Clang,
Because
clang.
strange weeks
Maxwell's silver hammer.
had turned into strange moons.
Taters, huh? Sorry, boss. I'm not hungry today either.
The great realm of Aka... How do we pronounce this again? Aka... Z-H...
Akathor?
Akaisor?
Akajor?
Akavor?
Akazhor.
Akajor?
I think it's
I think
purely
that-
academic at this point.
I think you got it right there, Rick. Akashor.
Akajor?
Go with it.
Where the very essence of reality was the sword to make flowers carry messages over the whole continent, and a single king had ruled since gods fought wars in the skies. Adder, having lost his appetite for the better part of dawn soon, didn't sound plausible at all.
All right. It ain't like I'm not hungry, Kay. It's just that... Look, boss, I don't mean no offense, but... You ever tried one of these? I've eaten knuckles with more flavor in them.
Oh.
No, what am I saying? I know you wouldn't touch these with a stick. Your paw's sitting on a pile of Barhan gold. Who the heck wants taters when you can have figs and dates for supper every night? Am I right?
The merchant was filthy, filthy rich, and he would have indulged in such delicacies if he hadn't been too tired of his worldly life to bother chewing, and too cheap to buy actual food to fill the pantry. So Adder's meager allowance came from Aina's own. Totally legit, unspecified source of income, which neither Elgrab nor Adder had probably ever thought about. But why this? Why now? When had Adder gotten so picky? He never had any problem eating the same stuff over and over before. He was thankful that he got to eat it all.
I guess it's time I learned my place and stopped drooling over all the fancy stuff I won't have again.
Where did he even get to try it in the first place?
I like how at some points here the
Dot, dot.
narrator's basically Aina.
Some points, what'd you say, Jonas?
I like how when Aina's making those phases, the narrator is basically her. You know. Anyway, go on.
Restless, concerned, gods forbid worried. These were all adjectives that clearly did not apply to Aina. But for some reason, she kept passing a tiny, ugly potato from hand to hand as she stared at the city from her home, thinking about the small fortune it had cost someone. Not her, but someone. You'd think that deer would have settled their capital in a beautiful prairie where they could graze free and indulge in hedonism. That the whole world looked something like the village Adder wouldn't shut up about. But no. Massive lack of foresight, coupled with Ikane's stubbornness and the insistence of their king, led to heirloom growing in the middle of a steppe between the enormous lake. I swear that is spelled differently than it was last time.
Is it?
Which one?
The lake.
Heirloom?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember how it was spelled.
It's possible Maxi goofed.
Enormous Lake Hall and the LRC. Barely any space for bush pens in the proximities, and fertile fields and a million souls to feed. Food was neither cheap nor readily available in the capital, hogged by those that needed it the least. Anyway, point is that Adder was a poor starving deer, and Aina wasn't willing to put up with this anymore. Find a cure or get him better food.
Get him better food.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's try to be nice to him. Let's try to win him over with compassion.
He can have a little better food as a treat.
Adder had been working incredibly hard all year long. Maybe all he needed was some sort of encouragement. And a lot better encouragement than, well, the one he asked for. Finding food in the city was absolutely out of the question. The moment it arrived, it was counted and measured, and Aina had calculated precisely how many potatoes she could acquire from each merchant before Illigrab began glaring at her. She'd have to make a little trip. Aina mentally went over the list of her favorite weapons as she trudged through the narrow alleys that composed the inner slums. She wasn't afraid she'd have to use them. No, she would have loved the chance to do so. The sun had just disappeared by the time that Aina passed the gate of Corbasui, the northeasternmost gate to Heirloom, and she soon left the walls behind. Grays, yellows, and whites of the city, the browns of the outer slums turned to a deep red, only interrupted by occasional shrubs sleeping in the burrows and crevices. Even the moon that watched over Aina shone a washed-out orange that always threatened to burn out the night sky. She didn't need any stars to light up her path tonight. Darkness was far better suited to her intentions. A cacophonous choir of laughs pulled Aina out of her thoughts. She jumped behind a rock, examining the distance as she searched for its source. A small congregation of merchants, sitting on straw mats by a bonfire. Their fur went from light brown to pitch black, and their bodies were thin, with bigger palmed horns. Fallow deer from the north. Their huge grapevines, bigger yet than the biggest tree of burden one could find in Akazor, slept behind them, basking in the firelight as they breathed puffs of fresh air and warmed their leaves. Their wares were unloaded around the bonfire. Carrots, apples, pears, salt rock, honey, and not a guard in sight. There'd be no need for stealth this time, now when Aina's claws are starting to poke through her bandages, now when her teeth gleamed with every spark that flew past her. The merchants scrambled to their feet and cowered behind their crates as they heard her approaching, sensing immediately that the fate that awaited them if they dare moved a muscle. Wasn't that just a perfect sight? Yes, Aina felt something distant and dangerous surrounded by the steps, faced with a frightened multitude surrounding her, all wails and eyes sinking into her skin. It was a feeling that told her this was all she knew once, in a life she could not remember living. A scream that overwhelmed all of her senses, while her mind struggled helplessly to regain any measure of control, like she could do something about it. But perhaps she was not the one supposed to do something about it. The crowd grew unexpectedly quiet. Quiet enough that Aina could hear her own thoughts again, at least. And then she saw her. Commanding and silent, with a glare as imposing as a mountain and horns so large that they would have killed whatever remained of Adder's self-esteem. An Ibex woman, far from home.
You give fear,
It's
but you
Tao.
don't a surprise, Pasitap said.
That last word caught Aina completely by surprise. Basaktet, or at least something that Basaktet, or at least something that resembled the ancient script of the gods closely enough to pass for it. Woman took another step closer to Aina, finishing her stride on an awkward stance unfit for a warrior. Aina stepped forward to match her, close enough that the fire outshone the purple glow in her eyes. She let her hammer fall by her side quite dramatically and stood proudly in front of them. The merchants nearly fell on their tails at the sight of her teeth. Even the woman gulped audibly. But she didn't back down 1 inch.
We are traveled from far, and we are tired. The deers frightened. They need to sleep good, so I fight with you. But we fighten't here, okay?
The illusion of authority and control she radiated faltered a little more with every word she said, and yet all the merchants around her seemed completely in awe of her intervention. Aina sneered to herself. No matter. If this goat was brave enough to try facing her one-on-one, the least she could do was honor her request.
Go to sleep. Go.
The merchants didn't need to be told twice. They scampered away among the rocks like scared shrubs, dragging their personal belongings with them. Aina was left alone with the stone-faced Ivix at last. It was her, in fact, who dared brave the distance, getting closer and closer to the fire until she was standing right in front of Aina. Her body was tensing up with anticipation for the duel, short as the combat would obviously be. She could have finished in a blink, destroying her adversary with a single strike. But her opponent moved in ways that she could not predict, deciding to sit down on a stone slab by her feet instead.
Are you hungry?
Aina's ears flew up. That foreign version of her mother tongue again. The whole phrase this time.
I'm sorry. You do understand Basaktat, yes? My Sirnar isn't very good, so I had a feeling it would be easier to talk to you like this. I heard the creatures of the West speaking it. I saw your boats docking once before back home in the middle of the night. I didn't say a word because I knew nobody would believe me, but I knew I would see you again sooner or later. I've been preparing my heart for this moment.
Aina remained immobile, but her eyes opened as she listened to these foreboding whispers. The storm was getting closer by the day, howling louder than ever. It was starting to make her queasy. A discreet motion in the corner of her eye brought Aina back to reality. She immediately switched back to her fighting stance as she caught a glimpse of the goat reaching for her spear, only to tumble forward and almost faceplant on the ground as the woman proceeded to hang a teapot over it. This was entirely too much for Aina's brain. A poor, confused bandit pointed the spear and then slammed the bottom of her hammer against the ground, demanding an explanation.
That's not what I'm sorry. I don't really intend to fight you. That was all a ruse. I'm not really a mercenary, and even if I was, I'm certain you could break all my bones without even trying. Sorry for deceiving you.
Aina's ears fell flat over her face. She must have misunderstood her accent. The words had surely shifted too far from Basketet her father spoke, because the other option was that someone was actually apologizing to her for trying not to get killed.
I am actually a priestess on a pilgrimage. I'd never held a weapon in my life, but Barhans have a fame for being great warriors where I'm from. I didn't have the coin to afford a journey so far south, so I offered myself as a caravan guard to earn my keep. I was given a spear and a shield before leaving my town and told to uphold our reputation, but I've only ever known the way of the gods. All my prayers have been selfish pleas that I'd never need to use it, but I wouldn't have left my home if I didn't understand the risks I'd be facing.
As if the situation wasn't weird enough, the goat jumped to her feet and stood proudly on her little rock.
The sun shines brighter on a liar than a coward. So I was taught by the warriors of Akdem Wisarat. So I will readily accept all the clouds I encounter on the way. I would really appreciate it if you'd let me have this cup of tea first, though. Sorry.
Aina was honestly too dazed to react to her request at this point. She could barely even register what she was hearing anymore, for the amount of nonsense the goat was dropping by the minute was staggering. Such tripe. The sun-favored liar's adder would be positively gleaming. I mean, she doesn't know yet, but...
Aina seems to, like, just attract this type, huh?
As this brief thought returned adder to her mind, Aina felt a twinge of something. Doubt, pain, guilt, perhaps. She wondered if Adder would be fine with this whole situation. Would he stop her if he knew how she got hold of all the food she brought him? Could he even afford to question where it came from as long as it filled his stomach? No. If Adder cared about any such thing, he would not have been living with Geoff to begin with. He never asked Aina where her dear potatoes had come from either. It seemed obvious in retrospective. He must have had a hunch, at least. There's only so much that can be discounted as naivete until it became willful ignorance.
Well, I'm the most willful person you... Okay, anyway.
Her moment of introspection was interrupted by the rattle of the spear scratching the trampled dirt beneath them. 3 symbols, abstracted beyond what was recognizable to Aina anymore. An empty rectangle with the bottom missing. A house? 3 straight lines. Aina turned absent-mindedly back to the fire once more, seeking the comfort of flames she could actually understand. Instead, she couldn't help but feel slightly embarrassed upon realizing that she'd been out of it enough for the water to boil. Ignorant of Aina's silent turmoil, the strangely apologetic goat picked up her teapot and poured its contents in a worn-down clay cup. Then, she produced a small salt rock from a pocket and added it to the brew. Warm cup of tea probably wasn't all that comforting under Aina's impatient gaze.
It says, welcomed in the temple of Hiru, tu apne tir jao. My name, that is, the seeress called me Jao, so that I would always keep the strength of my resolve, wherever the Hatsa may take me.
Jao took a little stick to the tea and began slowly stirring her mix in a motion so patient and deliberate that it made Aina suspect of how genuine it truly was.
I was born to be a priestess, and a priestess I will die if you put an end to my life. But, I'm a very good listener. Perhaps I could share a little of my strength if you would spare a little of yours?
Either the Ibex hadn't quite figured out yet that her would-be combatant couldn't speak, or she was speaking in a metaphorical sense, which was a little bit beyond the Smith's capacity of abstraction. All Aina could tell either way is that she was on the receiving end of a sincere smile, the worst kind. Aina turned her face towards the cup she was being offered, tea with salt. A small alliance.
Salty tea.
Salty tea. Drink tea with salt in it.
Well, I mean, they are like, ungulates.
That is true.
It filled with the tears of salty Warcraft players.
Zhao's face lit up so brightly that it was almost blinding to look at.
Is it good?
The tea may as well have been flavorless boiling water with some leaves and salt in it. Zhao hadn't even steeped it remotely long enough. Besides, water was too hot, which would have killed any of the subtle sweet cues Aina's sharp nose could pick from the watered leaves floating towards the surface. But this was not the moment nor the place to reveal her unexpectedly nuanced knowledge of tea preparation. Also was a good moment to show the silent red flush that crept under her cheeks as she realized she had drunk from the same side as her. Aina snatched a spear right off Zhao's hand and began scratching the ground as well, trying to channel embarrassment into her handiwork. Even rushed and fluttered, Aina's glyphs were carefully crafted, products of an age where this was time to take calligraphy leisurely. She drew symbols that her mind didn't remember learning, but her hands did. Half sun, covered by the horizon, gemstones under the sand.
Sunset treasure, or, a treasured sunset. Tessina, yes?
After a few moments of hesitation, Aina nodded guardedly. Having someone else read out loud what she wrote was always a slightly disturbing experience. It made her feel exposed, like anyone could open up her chest and read her heart if she lowered her guard for a moment.
Warbird, no, this is not a dating sim. Despite what is happening on screen.
I mean, I'm still kind of shipping it, but...
I mean, it's like, it's an adventure visual novel, fantasy visual novel with, yeah, there's a high amount of, like, shipping and romance and stuff, but it's not a dating sim, because we're not choosing who gets to be with who. We're just sitting here reading it and watching it.
Yeah, in my heart, they're all sluts who are with each other.
Because they could. It could really be as simple as that. They could all be sluts with each other. But that was not a reality Aina was prepared to face.
Harsh.
The tea with salt in it, I think that's a reference to the Tuareg people, who are a North African tribe of Sahara nomads.
Okay.
I'm still getting over Rick just casually repeating what I said in the narrator voice.
Zhao's vacant expression couldn't do anything to abate her torment, face hidden behind the cup as she let her eyes rest on the symbols that Aina had drawn.
You have wandered so far into the steppes, all alone in the middle of the night, to attack a band of merchants that simply carry supplies to a starving city. Us mortals do this all the time. Hunger makes us desperate. Cold makes us lonely. I thought you were here to eat us, but you don't ever starve or feel warmth, do you? You were born to take these things from others, not to share them. Yet I'm sorry, I think you can tell this is wrong, deep down. The sun shines upon you too, even if it's just barely. But you are scared of it.
Enough. Anna sprung to her feet, baring her fangs threateningly. She'd let this goat mess with her mind for a while because she was curious, but that was it. She'd show her scared. As her teeth loomed over Zhao's face, frozen in fear, as her irate glare reflected the purple glow of her eyes on Zhao's own, she found herself paralyzed as well. Ina tumbled back, overwhelmed by something she couldn't quite name, for she had spent a lifetime refusing its existence. She swept away the only proof of her presence with a kick, sending the dust flying over the fire and the teapot. In the darkness, she picked up her hammer and made to leave. Took Zhao a moment longer to thaw out her shock. Heaven is a place on earth. Okay.
You having fun there, Miller?
Oh, I'm having fun that Ina is, like, trying to fight her feelings.
Just can't fight this feeling anymore.
Cannot. She
I
absolutely
wonder
cannot.
what I started fighting for.
Team 4!
But she still had the courage to call out one last time.
Tessaina! Your fate may not be a sunset after all, but a sunrise! Keep looking for the sun, wherever it finds you!
Son, what a joke. The empty steps watched Ina drag her feet back home, her mind stuck on the moment when she tried to attack Zhao. Once and again, its memory a loop she could not make sense of. Why'd she stop there and then, when so many others before had begged for their wares and their lives without receiving an ounce of sympathy for their efforts? A revelation struck Ina as the city walls obscured the moon shining over her dagger. The stammering, the scared eyes, the hopeless smiles. She was just like... A marine breeze blew over the streets of Heirloom the next day, sweeping away some of the hot steppe dust that suffocated the city. Akazor was 2 moons well into dawn soon already, and it was coming to an end little by little. It was lunchtime, and Ina couldn't stop thinking about the previous night. She still couldn't understand why she couldn't bring herself to merely grab their wares and leave as usual. Maybe they weren't good enough, and that was her merchant instinct talking. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
No. For some reason, she could only think of Adder chiding her and giving her a disappointed look. So, if he didn't want the usual, that was totally his fault. Carrying a small mound of uncooked misshapen potatoes, dried seaweed, and several bulbous roots, Ina made her way through the corridors of her home in search of her apprentice. A cloud or two could be seen in the big blue sky, white and puffy, off to conduct whatever business a cloud could have so close to her home. The once great Temple of Hirub, the abandoned residence of a god that left in a tantrum after the Baron rebellion. Not the most elegant farewell, but her father always said that gods need no manners, and that old geezer clearly knew about all that. The lack of manners, I mean. He knew a thing or two about gods as well, but he much preferred to spend his time cursing them for his longevity. Oh, there he went with his usual friends.
Burn the Siffy! This time we'll get him for good!
Ada! Second-class daughter of a hero-praying beast! Quit wiffle-waffling and do something about this! I know you're somewhere around here, you busty lugs! Ada!
Oh no! He's casting some kind of spell! Hurry up!
Anna just stared idly at the mob carrying her father away, off to a pyre that would forever magically fail to end the poor man's life. A question resurfaced in Anna's mind. It was Adder's, pondering aloud whether Anna's father was hated a little more or a little less for purchasing and desecrating the temple of a god that most people despised anyway. She took a moment to consider this as she walked into the sunlight. Sacrilege is a kind of a global standard, I suppose. Cue Adder, moping all by himself in the courtyard. Anna tensed up her shoulders and stretched out the food plate, attempting to pass the dish off as something casual that she didn't go out of her way and spent her personal earnings to buy. Once more, instead of happily proceeding to choke on his payment for helping out in the forge, Adder took a long, empty look at the food. He sighed and looked away.
Sorry, boss. I'm not hungry.
So he'd said time and again during the last few moons, but Adder had always ended up giving up and eating. Less and less every time, however. Aina waited patiently to no avail. Once she got tired of that, she shook a carrot in front of his face, hoping to stir his curiosity with this new, shocking ingredient. No answer. So there she was, shaking a rattle in front of a giant one-eyed baby that refused to eat. Seeing that diplomacy didn't work, she poked his snout with said carrot.
Then she bit him fiercely about the head.
She poked and poked until it ended up in his nose.
You happy now?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Keyboard smash. Aina's total desperation was purposefully ignored by Adder, so a poor carrot was snapped in two for his sins. It was at this point that Aina realized she didn't much care about why he wasn't eating. All she knew was that the deer had to eat, and he hadn't done so in a while. All the delicacy her hands could muster, she opened his jaw and smashed a raw potato right into his mouth. But something was wrong. He didn't overreact. He didn't attempt to talk in his potato-in-mouth dialect. He just grabbed the tuber and handed it back to Aina.
If you like them taters so much, why don't you eat them? Now you're growling at me? What's your deal?
Her deal? But he was the one that acting strange. She was just trying to help. And he still hadn't eaten a single thing.
I don't want your darn potatoes, Aina! Just leave me alone!
Aina hesitated for a moment. A moment longer and her fist would have given quite a speech. She turned around and angrily stormed off. That'd teach her to think about anyone other than herself. Aina marched toward one of her usual hideouts atop the rundown temple walls, away from Adder's sight. She didn't run that far. He wasn't going to pursue her this time. Alone with one of her potatoes and all of her weapons, Aina began rummaging through her pockets in search of a knife. There was never a lack of those on her person.
There's just something poetic about the words alone with one of her potatoes.
She brought out one of her trusty daggers and focused all of her attention on cutting the potato into thinner and thinner slices. She wasn't wrong. There was just no way she was. She was older and wiser, and Adder was just being an idiot by refusing her help, of course.
Hiding from the mob, little Tess?
God damn it, giant tree man.
I'm a nickel for every time I've said that.
Replying to Illigrab wasn't precisely on Aina's list of priorities for the day. Illigrab didn't expect otherwise.
Don't worry! I took care of them! No need to thank me, of course. Wouldn't kill you, though.
It might.
Anyway, all that's left is putting out the fire, so, I was hoping Adder could give me a hand there. Where is the lad?
That was another question that didn't deserve an answer. Aina devoted her whole being to gathering all the extra thin potato slices and then launched them into the air, watching them fly around like some tremendously wasteful confetti.
Did you two get in a fight?
Is it potato related?
Aina led Illigrab to the courtyard, where a peevish Adder sat by the fountain. He was rubbing his face as he stared at all the food by his side.
He hasn't come back to his senses yet, huh? Hey, think it's your father's fault? I mean, I could leave him a little longer on the pyre to see if he learns his lesson.
Don't you dare,
you son of a wilted bear!
What are you saying, Jonas?
Maxi's up, and he's asking if he can join.
Can you turn your volume up, Jonas?
Oh, sure, yeah. Is this better?
Excuse me.
More.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah, Maxi's up, and he's asking if he can join.
Sure.
Okay.
I love how the merchant is like, I'll die the way I want to die, you coward.
Yeah, we could have him in and we could talk about Anxiety Goat.
Anxiety goat.
Don't you dare, you son of a wilted fur! Beat face. I'll make a wardrobe out of you! Oh, bless your ears, Red.
Ina shook her head, frustrated. The merchant hadn't said anything meaner than usual, and even if he had, Ada and Ina formed an unbreakable team. Nothing could harm them when they were together. They looked in Ada's direction once more.
Was he actually doing cartwheels?
I won't pretend now I've ever understood how Adder's mind works.
You two worrywarts were made for each other.
Ada's face turned red immediately. The legendarily morose Smith would rather admit to any criminal charges against her than let on that she was actually concerned about anyone's well-being. Illigrab smiled and stepped forward before she had a chance to protest, however.
Let me handle this. Ahem. Adascend, son of Gerfaz of the Upperfield, you're under arrest!
Oh, three, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I knew that it was against the law, but I couldn't just go tell Arter. Please don't kill me.
For worrying a precious little bean. Like, Ada, sweetie, give us a minute, will you?
You just confessed to a crime, so I'm gonna need a little moment here.
Adder, my favorite Chanthurian refugee. Why would the only law-abiding deer in Slander District ever beg for his life? Did Gyoff talk you into conning someone? Someone called Talid, perhaps?
No, thank you. All the gold in Basaxeron ain't worth a word with that sicko. Don't tell him I said that.
Well, that rules the most serious possibility out, which leaves us with a scared buck and a secret. And you know that I'm only second to Aina when it comes to both. Start talking.
All right. If I'm gonna die, at least let me die an honest buck. I met this girl and she booped me and I got so nervous that I ran away, but then we met again and it turned out we kind of knew each other because I tried to save her once. Things got kind of heated up between us and, what we did that night? Oh, boy, that can't be legal.
Oh! Say no more. So, you shed your antlers. That's no big deal. And most certainly not a crime. Though you know, fawns...
Illigrab's like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to talk birds to the bees.
You do know
with
about
him.
that, right? Adder, I love you like a son, but please don't make me take on your father's actual educational duties.
I know where fawns come from. That ain't...
Good! Good! Then what could... Oh, of course. I should have known from the very first moment.
Adder's eyes lit up slightly. Illigrab let a heavy hand fall on the buck's shoulder as he took a deep breath.
Adder, no matter how guilty you feel, cheating is not a crime.
Say what?
I want you to know that I don't approve of what you've done, but I'm sure Aina will understand if you talk to her.
I'd never cheat on Aina. I'd have to be courting her for that anyway.
You're not?
Of course not. My boss is the strongest and the coolest and cute as a bug to boot. Ain't nobody good enough in this world to court Aina, much less me. I could never find me a doe like her.
But kid, she's not a...
The tree falls in a temple and there are 3 people to hear it, including the tree itself. Doesn't make a sound.
Asking the real questions.
The answer is yes, he says doe.
All right, kiddo. That's the end of the talk. Why don't you go back to sulking in the corner or something?
I like how useful his model is for this because he just has the legs sticking up right there.
Right?
Illigrab laughed awkwardly as Aina dragged him away.
He's smiling.
You're
while
lucky
doing
I
so.
can't have you arrested, you unruly little beast. Yeah, of course. Mock your biggest ally. Oh,
Quite
excuse
literally.
me. That wasn't on purpose, I swear. Your greatest ally! I was just trying to help you. Forget that stupid argument. I thought I told you to tell him the truth already. Don't play the mute card with me. There's a million ways you could tell him. That boy's blinder than Pertok, but he'll find out sooner or later that you're lying to him. You want to wait till Eka is here? How do you think he'll react then? Aina, we aren't like him. Like them. I know you care a lot about him, and so do I. I love the both of you. But keeping up the charade for so long is only gonna make the truth harder than it should be. Dear, have a life. And we're a part of it, of course, but there are just some things that we can never give them. Things they need in their short time on Dakna. No matter how much we love them. Adder is no exception to that rule. He's beginning to realize that you're not the son of his life, Aina. Take the whole Knight business out, and what do you have? He's just a boy with down-to-earth concerns. He wants a farm. He wants a family. He will move on one day and find those things. And we should be happy for him. Do you understand?
There were some concepts that Aina was acutely aware of, even if she herself didn't realize that. How painfully small her influence could be on anyone's life was one of them. A few moments went by in complete silence as she contemplated the faces that had left her behind already. She had always been all too eager to forget how rare company had been throughout her existence. Bearing the weight of such a thought, she finally nodded with her head low. Illigrab's mustache turned down as his eyebrows rose. A million worried creases formed where his forehead should be.
Great! Then do me a favor and take him somewhere nice tonight.
Hello, Maxi.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Maxi.
Hey
there.
You got here just in time to hear one of your own lines.
So go make up with him. Take him out tonight.
Working through
Who
chapter 2, we
knows?
just
Maybe
finished
he'll
watching,
loosen up and tell you what's
Zhao's
going on
introduction.
after a few drinks.
I didn't understand a word of that. Come again?
We're working our way through chapter 2, and we just got through with Zhao's introduction.
Oh, shit, you met the Sadie goat. Nice.
We did meet the sad goat.
The tea that Zhao is serving, the salt tea, is that a real thing?
Yes, it is a real thing, actually. It's a thing in quite a few steppe cultures. It's a form of greeting, actually. Like when you make a friend, not a friend per se. Like when two tribes will meet and stuff, they will serve each other salt tea. There's a tea that's very interesting to me, which is Mongolian butter tea. It's made with jack butter. It sounds like a thing. But no, this one is tea with salt is let me think. Let me see if I can find that Wikipedia article while you keep going through this. Sorry. Please go ahead.
It's time to let him in or let him go. So you two'd better be smooshing faces together by the end of the night, okay? That's a royal order.
Illigrab ships it.
In an incredible display of dexterity, Illigrab managed to produce a giant tree deer's handful of doors from a bag on his belt, which he handed to a very flustered Aina as discreetly as he could. Satisfied with his act of generosity, he took a long glance around the forge, finally stopping to stare at the embers resting on the bottom of the furnace.
And you can think of that as a tip. You know, so you can get to work on my order a bit faster.
Aina looked at Illigrab straight in the eye, not restless, not calm. Even more silently than usual, she stretched out the hand holding the coins towards him.
Fair enough. I should know better than to try to bribe a Tess. You guys are a prideful bunch. But hey, keep the money. I'm sure Adder could use a little, push in the right Are you going to help me down or what? Red, I swear I'd let the mobs have their way with you if it wouldn't make your daughter sad. I'd like to see you try! Oh, I'm sure you would. He's right.
Yeah, I would!
Hang it right there. Good luck, Aina.
Free from the chains of unwanted social interaction, Aina silently pondered Illigrap's words as she headed back to Adder's side.
I think we can all relate to the chains of unwanted social interaction.
you know, I went through the last Twitch stream, and there's this one thing Void said, that he was like, well, you know, like Aina is just like Maxi's favorite character or something like that. So that's why they voice Aina. I was like, no, that ain't it. I just didn't want to be someone to grunt.
You know what? That is completely valid. I don't even know what a good going rate to pay someone to grunt would be.
I don't know. What's Tim Allen's rate?
Nice. There used to be sacred flat pools in the public courtyard, now served as a magnificent dish and laundry washing station. Adder's particularly, since he was in charge of these chores. At the end of the day, any of her oh-so-urgent tasks were just another excuse to keep Adder around. He purposefully looked the other way. Of course, he didn't want to talk to her. The irony of getting blatantly ignored by the clingiest deer on Dakna wasn't lost on Aina, a painful punishment if there was one. An apology was something to be rarely expected from the Smith. Not because she failed to see the fault in her actions, but because she didn't know how to apologize. No, that was just an excuse. Adder always knew when Aina felt guilty about anything. Then again, why did she have to apologize when it was him who failed to appreciate her efforts?
Yeah, jeez.
She would have continued patting her own back and telling herself how right she was, if she hadn't noticed that the food was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah?
Aina carefully removed Adder's hand. Aina carefully removed from Adder's hands a brash dish that he'd been polishing over and over.
It's not clean yet. There's some red spot that just won't get.
Yeah, Lady Macbeth had the same problem.
An incredible feat, considering they'd been washing that same dish since her conversation with Illigrap started. The dish had been cleaned with such dedication that she could see her reflection in it. Aina stared at the dish. Then at Adder. Back in the dish.
Then at Adder.
Adder again.
Now back to your man. Now back to me. Now back to your man.
Once satisfied with her observation, she whacked Adder's snout with the flat side of the dish in a manner that she considered softly.
What is it now?
Smirking in the most annoying fashion possible, she shoved the dish on Adder's face.
Yeah, there it is. Just let me clean that darn dish.
Aina turned the dish around once more just to make sure that she was right. There was no spot to be seen. Seeing that her first idea didn't yield any results, Aina decided that some better strategic positioning was in order.
Hey, wait! Don't go walking into the pool! You're gonna make a...
Ignoring the way her boots were getting soaked and how questionable her repositioning was, Aina sat down in the gap left between Adder's legs in the pool. She held the dish out as far as she could and then tapped on its surface, attempting to call Adder's attention to it once more. He had to regain a bit of composure first.
Can't you see the spot? It's there, right next to your face.
Brief lapse of clarity came about as Adder's sight traveled toward a red blur on the brass dish, right where his left eye should have been.
And I'm done. Big surprise.
That's okay, Adder. It's like the fourth most endearing thing about you.
They agreed on that. A tranquil silence followed Adder's epiphany, a moment of reflection. Aina looked up at Adder. Aina looked up at Adder with her big lilac eyes, hoping to tug at his heartstrings in lieu of an apology.
Some people would call that kind of purposefully cute look manipulative.
Some people would get their asses kicked.
Well, darn, boss. I may not be all that used to the eye thing just yet, but I don't really need two eyes to see when you're trying to play me.
Aina patted Adder's enormous arms as patronizingly as she could, ruffling the fur that covered them. It seemed none of them would exactly apologize for what happened. So, of course, they went back to playing with the dish like the big children they were.
What's that?
Ooh, the thief.
Just and it's choppers.
Who the heck's that gnarled leafless palm tree? That ain't me. There just ain't no way that's my face. Where'd my cheeks go? No wonder I don't recognize myself. Hold on.
You haven't been eating
How
for
did
like
she even
months,
manage to
Adder.
recognize me then? Was that magic too?
I had no idea who she was or what magic he was talking about, but there was only one gigantic one-eyed roe deer with shovels for hands in the whole city. Adder put the dish away, fixing his gaze farther in the fountain, where his statue stood mutilated and bereft of the glory it had ages back.
Curses! Ain't no way I could forget someone like that twice.
Knowing fully well that he wasn't talking to her, Anna continued running her bandaged fingers across his fur absentmindedly, somewhat concerned about the sudden interest for the son of the sun. She could only guess why he was talking to a statue, but then again, didn't that hold true for everything? Did she actually understand a single thing Adder did or said? Could she even? Adder had told her a million things since they met. She didn't care. They did not affect her in the slightest, and yet he kept pouring his heart out to her, and she kept ignoring him like some sort of tug-of-war for lonely idiots.
Some of this dialogue, or some of this this writing really gets me.
It's definitely the writing. I love it.
It's, like, the point with Ina's POV was, like, she's very, like, growing in, So, I'm glad you appreciate it.
Oh, I very much do.
So why did the thought of not understanding him distress her so much now, when she hadn't made a single effort to do so in the time they had known each other? In the time they'd known each other. Elgrab's words resonated within her, making her feel like guilt she usually quieted with violence.
You know, I've been thinking a whole darn lot about the past lately, boss.
Ina's torn up ears perked up. What were the chances of those two thinking the same thing?
Not great.
Adder smiled ever so slightly, giving her his trademark, "Here's a story you don't want to miss," look.
Do you remember the day we met?
What a question.
Hey, don't you... at me, Missy. Imagine you just walked into the city thinking this is finally your day. You make a friend, he's gonna get you a job, and then you turn around a corner and stumble upon a grandpa on fire!
Nothing strange as far as I know.
I think we've all been there. I was about to say, I think we've all been
Make
there.
your idea of weird and mine sort of match for a minute, boss. As I was saying, my pa raised a good boy, and a good boy don't let grandpas fry on a pyre. So I rush into the temple, ready to end the one life I got to save his.
What Adder didn't know is that Ina had been looking down on the scene from her window, giving her quite a more accurate retelling of the events.
But no matter how hard I try, the fire's just too strong for me. There's nothing a poor buck like me can do. With his last breath, the old man calls for his daughter, and he hollers until... Whoa! The prettiest girl I'd seen in my life walks right out of the gate!
Ina made a conscious effort not to giggle. To be fair, half the female population that Adder met was the prettiest girl he'd ever seen in his life.
And as she makes her way through the crowd, she looks at me! At me! Of all the people!
Of course she was looking at him. He was screaming louder than the man on the pyre.
And she gets closer. And closer. And then... the little thing just signs us to get eaten by a beast and walks away like it's got nothing to do with her. Wonder who that gal was, huh?
He poked Ina's cheek, and she slapped his hand away as solemnly as she could. He was one to talk about first impressions.
Cute.
Shaggy.
That was cute.
Shaggy, chubby, bald, badly patched up and wearing a ridiculous vest. That's how she remembered the Adder that first appeared in their gate, screaming in fear as usual. Once upon a time, there had been muscle and even fat on Adder's arms. All that remained to attest to his gigantism were a pair of oversized hands, and the clothes that had been mended beyond recognition. Indeed, he was once a boy with a tender scar on his face, yelling from the rooftops that he fully intended to become a knight. But dreams aren't edible, are they?
I gotta say,
I don't know.
This year's been kicking my ass real bad. But I'm still alive and in one piece. I guess I got good health at least. No thanks to your horn-shattering, teeth-breaking, nose-bending punches. But you're the one person I can always count on, boss. I trust you with my life.
That was just a very Adderish exaggeration, of course. They had only been friends since the last bleak night, at least the way she saw it. There was no way he trusted her that much already. Then again,
have you met this guy?
Adder would have probably argued that they had been friends since he arrived with the first bloom of flower scents, and that he would have died for her the moment that he saw her.
And it ain't just you. I can't imagine leaving Mr. Bard's home. Or not going on walks with Illigrab. Even the patron. Gods, I never thought I'd find something like this when I left the fort. I was just dying to go back.
Adder shut up all of a sudden. Anna was surprised he managed to speak half a sentence about his draft. There went another issue we never talked about. Both Adder and Ina turned their eyes to the reflection once more. The image on the dish offered no good answer to the question either of them had. It just talked about the outcome of their decisions. Ina shifted the dish a little until she was no longer in the picture. That's where she belonged.
Now, you really gotta quit sneaking around, boss.
Putting his hands just above hers, Adder turned the dish so she would be back in the reflection. She turned her face up towards his, confused.
Illigrab's words got to you, right?
Still observing Adder's snout in such a weird angle, she nodded. He had been a lot more vigilant than what she had originally thought, but he had decided to remain silent about it all the same. From such a low angle, his still faunish and round face looked even mature. Now that was a stretch, since she knew that mature was probably one of the last adjectives that would ever be associated with him. But for just a moment, she felt like he wasn't a dumb kid who would get lost if she let go of him anymore.
Please tell me you didn't believe him, ma'am. He got it all wrong. I ain't no cheater. I never once said I was courting you, I swear.
It was just a moment, as I said. Ina quietly considered the question. But not before headbutting his chest for that tell, of course. Cry or comfort?
Compassion.
Always compassion.
Comfort, sure. He needs it.
Hug the goat.
No matter what was troubling Adder, it obviously wasn't her business. She didn't like it when he pried into her life. It was only fair she'd return the favor and let him be. Ina took a long glance at the stag's jaw, letting her mind wander. She always kept him at an arm's length, effectively speaking. She feared what Adder would find if he looked closer. But in moments of true hardship, Ina knew just what to do to cheer him up. No money or alcohol required. Effortlessly, she grabbed onto his arms and brought them around her waist, pulling him into what could only count as half a hug. Adder embraced her as strongly as he could, moved by this gesture. Any other person's spine would have probably crumbled under the weight of Adder's chest, but not Ina's, no.
Boss!
So cute.
I can't believe Illigrab had the nuts to go and say such a thing. What kind of buck does he think I am? He knows how much you mean to me. I'd never, ever hurt you like that.
Ina sighed contentedly to herself, laughing about her previous considerations about him looking like an adult. Adder was as caring, vulnerable, and predictable as the day she met him. That hadn't changed at all. She didn't want him to change at all. Change was scary and Adder an oddity in a world that shunned her. She wanted him safe and sound by her side. How could that ever be a bad thing? She didn't need an answer. It was now time for Ina to go back to sulking and for Adder to feel bad thinking it was due to what Illigrab said.
They got it all wrong. Illigrab, Mr. Bard, the patron. I know they want to help, but all them city folks think they know better than Shorthorns over yonder. He don't ever get to finish talking, because they already know what a dumb fawn's gonna say. You got any idea how gosh darn friggin' annoying that is?
Ina rolled her eyes back. Ask the mute girl if she knows anything about not getting to chip in.
I ain't no farmer. I've been a farmer and a water seller and a watchman and a soldier. I had a life before I met him, and I have one now too. But I just don't want to tell them about it. They wouldn't understand.
Oh, but they would.
And what if I just don't want to talk? What if I'm tired of everyone thinking I'm a hick and that's it? It ain't the end of the world, right? Right?
Adder looked at Ina pleadingly with a big, glassy eye on the verge of tears. The smith couldn't even bring herself to give him the sarcasm he deserved. Ina nodded patiently, giving him a lazy, derisive pat on his cheek. She found that almost relatable. The loud sigh full of resignation, frustration, and just a hint of relief. Adder rested his chin on Ina's head, letting his surge of honesty suddenly vanish.
Woo! Feels good to get that off my chest. Once more, does and stags, the only one that gets it is Aina the Smith. I'm sorry for all the grief I've given you, boss. I should have talked to you sooner.
Indeed, he should have, but she was gracious enough to not remark on it. Ina let him know that she still expected an explanation with a single look, and Adder's cheeks jumped a little as he looked away, smiling as coyly as his giant teeth would let him. And here came the part where he poured his heart out to the beautiful maiden by his side, and their relationship was strengthened even further.
Boss, you know that I know there ain't nobody in the whole of Akathor that'll keep a secret safer than you. But that still don't mean you get to hear about it.
Huh?
Time to roll out the barrels.
Well, ma'am, I think I'm all talked out for today. I should get going now. Mr. Bard's playing tonight, and someone's got to make sure he don't drink our money. See you tomorrow.
Adder headed off to the arc that led to the Slander District. A set of steps started walking behind him.
Uh-oh.
Boss? Ha! Gotcha. Did I forget something?
Ina pointed at Adder and then at herself.
You want to come along? I don't know, boss. It's, a stag night. We're gonna drink ourselves silly, and then we're gonna talk about does. Woo! Yeah.
Yup, talking about does? Now there's the biggest piece of fiction ever written.
See, unlike the gays one, I am actually still proud of this one.
Needless to say, Ina remained very much unconvinced.
What about your pa? He's gonna be madder than a hornet when he hears you're out drinking with me again.
The merchant was essentially mad every fraction of a second he spent alive. That wasn't a deterrent under any circumstance.
Let me make this a bit easier for you. Do you remember the last time we went to a tavern together, boss? You know, when you threw Mr. Bard out a window? And then you just ran after him and left me alone to... Hold up. Don't tell me that was the day she...
Whatever story Adder was about to tell disappeared completely from his mind. He bit the claw on his thumb, babbling to himself with that strange accent of his. Her boots didn't even make a sound as she shyly walked towards Adder. She grabbed his hand with her comparatively tiny fingers and looked up, awaiting a response.
Sorry, boss, don't cry, please. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you wanted to come along so bad. You could come down with us any day. And if Mr. Bard got anything to say about that, I'll take care of him.
And his lips trembled as she struggled to keep a smirk away from her face.
Not so fast, ma'am. You gotta swear over Bata that your butt and the seat are gonna be one and the same. As if I see you throw a single punch, or a kick, or God's forbid a stab, I ain't ever taking you with me again.
Can you believe
I don't
some
want
people...
another buck slamming a chair against my noggin. Got it?
Can you believe some people actually believe she's crying for real? I'm like, I tried my best to be like,
I think the text there was pretty accurate what you were doing.
What can I say? There are many adders in this world, and God bless each and every one of them.
there really are so many people who buy into what Aina does. You know, like there are some people out there who come to me like, "Oh my God, Aina is so pure." And I'm like, are we playing the same game? She's so sweet, and like, is she like asexual? And I'm like, like, your take is valid. I would not take that away from you, but
But you are flat out wrong.
of all the characters you could choose to interpret as that, maybe Aina is not the one you want.
There are many theories, and this one is an unsound theory.
Uh-oh, am I being visited by a kitty cat?
I don't know, are you?
Oh, baby.
Oh, it looks like you are.
I love when she yawns and meows at the same time. That's my favorite.
Suspicious glares and mutters accompanied Aina and Adder all the way through the Slander District until they ended up in their usual tavern. Or rather, the closest thing to a tavern one could find in there. The Lucky Bastard, so called in honor of the owner's late husband, who was struck dead by a lightning bolt after walking out of a gambling house. The three...
I forgot about that.
That's actually awesome. I love that. Oh, of course he's dead. I'm sad.
The three were clearly mad at him, though not quite as much as his wife. She'd surely made peace with the memory of him after finding his secret earnings and opening the tavern. That doesn't give you a clear idea of the type of gents that frequented this establishment. Suffice to say, they let Geoff play in it. Adder peeked in, looking with apprehension at the few deer scattered across the tavern. Anyone capable of ignoring the aberrations Geoff played probably deserved to be there. Quick look back at Aina revealed her eagerness to quiet Geoff using her fists. She noticed Adder's expression and quickly put up her hands behind her back.
Hey now! You promised you'd be quiet. You swore over my top. He's gonna smite you to death.
Aina took a hand to her forehead and pretended to swoon. She actually miscalculated and fell on her butt. Smitten indeed.
I ain't joking around, boss. This is the one place in the district that still lets Mr. Bard play. I can't get in trouble here. I can't do that to Geoff again, okay? Do it for me?
That's dirty pool.
And there went Aina's plans for the night. Everyone turned towards the duo as they walked into the bar with faces that went from awe to ire. The barkeep, upon noticing Adder, quickly rushed to his side.
There you are, Adder! Just the man I wanted to stab today. Go tell that asshat friend of yours to tune that stupid piece of...
Aina's eyes met the barkeep's. She paled. Aina smiled. Though Adder would have you believe otherwise, Aina storming off was hardly an uncommon event. It was, in fact, how most of her arguments with her father ended up, since she could not quite defend her own causes. Some strange events tended to occur concurrently. One night, an enormous hole opened in one of the city's walls. One day, the sun rose to reveal that Bahat's statue was missing his 2-story tall sword. Most recently, someone removed all the pavement from the northeastern quarter of the central plaza. An extremely sharp dagger was the only clue the thief left behind. But of course, Adder didn't believe that his beloved boss had anything to do with any form of nocturnal vandalism.
Wait. What? You...
Oh, right. Boss, this is the prettiest barkeep in town, Miss Barkeep. Miss Barkeep, this is the prettiest smith in town, my boss, Aina.
Aina?
Aina tilted her head up slightly to let Adder pat her head affectionately. Still in such a cute position, she turned her eyes toward the barkeep in a killing glare.
Aina! Of course. I didn't know it was like that. Give me just a... You bunch of twats better get your asses out of this place immediately! These two want some space!
Okay, story time. wait. So, in 2018, I may not have known the difference between the word tweet and twat. I found out like a bit later when an American streamer was playing through and went, "Oh!"
I mean, to be fair, it still fits.
Yeah, it works.
It fits, like it's a word she would say, but the American streamers kind of were like, "Whoa," because it's the biggest word anyone says in the story. I still want to say it's PG-13, so that technically lets me make someone say fuck only once in a non-sexual context. So someone has to say fuck. Someone will say fuck. You don't know who, but someone will say fuck.
It's kind of like how the
Stoker.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah,
but anyway, the point I was gonna say it's kind of like how each PG-13 movie in the American MPAA rating system is allowed one fuck these days. So they have to, if they want to use it, not everyone does. They have to choose very carefully exactly where they want to place their fuck.
Yes,
It's like picking exactly the right wall to hang, the Mona Lisa on when you've got it home.
Exactly. That's what I'm basing it off. Because if it was in Spanish, like in Spain, we're allowed to say fuck as much as we want, right? Like that's not a problem.
Nice. I will
In fact,
be
this
right
pro-
back. 1 second.
My game is probably a PG-7 in Spain. But yeah, no, not a PG-7 in America.
So you're allowed to say fuck as in the English version of the word fuck?
I mean, your swear words are fucking child's play to me. Your Saxon swear words sound like barking. Fuck sounds like a type of bread. Like, if I was going to swear in Spanish, I'd be like, me cago en la hostia puta joder. You know?
She just demonetized us. We're getting get kicked off Twitch now.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I said
Only the Spanish Twitch.
Yeah, on Spanish Twitch. I said in like less harsh words. I said I crap on the freaking holy wafer.
Oh my god. That'll definitely get you in trouble
I know
in some
some
places.
Spanish curses, but because I live in Texas, they're all Mexican Spanish, so
Yeah, this is
it's like
Spain Spanish.
it's not quite the same.
Kerry's been learning Spain Spanish, and he's told me that Spain has some pretty colorful curses.
Yeah, Spain Spanish. I mean, Spanish in general is all about combo breaking courses. Like you build up blocks. One of my favorite is always like, I shit on the milk your mother gave you.
You can learn so much about a culture from its profanity.
Highly educational.
Like the merchants courses are what I did is they're literal Spanish courses translated to English. That's how he courses in English. That's literally just
That's wonderful.
Spanish courses.
I love everything about this.
So yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Hey. There was no answer to the barkeep's order. Ina reached for the hammer on her back.
There's no need for that, ma'am. We'll just try to fit in a corner or something.
Adder took a deep breath as Ina placed the hammer back on her belt, sending just one last look of disappointment his way. Yoff's barely cohesive poetry became clearer as they reached the back of the tavern, though the bard seemed too occupied with his performance to notice them yet. They managed to find a nifty space where they could barely fit together, though their designated room on the floor became considerably bigger after Ina curled her lips at the deer around them.
Well, that sure was a thing. She never called anyone a twat for me before. You know the barkeep, boss?
Nope, no way. She had to be confusing Ina for some other green-haired albino that wandered from tavern to tavern once a moon demanding a little tip in exchange for not raising the place to the ground.
There's one or two of those, right?
Easy mistake. Once seated, Ina called the barkeep with a deep, menacing growl. She rushed to their side immediately.
Yes, miss?
Ina pointed to a cup and raised 2 fingers. The barkeep clearly didn't need a translation, but Ina's request didn't seem to cheer Adder up as it should have.
Make that just one, ma'am. I ain't got enough money. And I don't feel like drinking anyway.
But Ina felt like making him drink, of course. She brought out a shiny Doru from Illigraf's gift, pointed to herself and then to Adder.
Oh, that's mighty kind of you, boss. But really, I don't wanna. I said no thanks.
Boy, I will end you.
Ina tried to push 2 coins into the barkeep's hand while Adder tried to pull her hand away fruitlessly.
Aina! What did I say earlier about trying to know what's best for me, huh? I don't always gotta get naked to have fun, alright?
I'm sorry, what?
I got your attention.
Both Ina and the barkeep looked at each other. Then they looked at Adder as he pursed his lips together.
Get drunk? I mean, I don't gotta get drunk. What do you know? I think I kind of do need a drink.
Well, that settled it.
Get me drunk, please. I don't want to think about being naked now.
Adder was already bringing himself enough shame, so Ina kindly overpaid the barkeep in a desperate action to make her go away. Once the barkeep left, she took one of Adder's hands and pulled it away from his eyes, trying to take a good look at his face. She would have had better luck looking for faces in the mold covering the walls.
Doth mine ears deceive me, or is that the tinkling of coins I hear?
And the word Dacus.
Then Geoff finally turned towards him with very calculated nonchalantness, plucking the strings of his perpetually out-of-tune ode. Ina pulled her ears down and sighed audibly.
Goodness gracious! If it isn't Ladder, accompanied by the petite patroness no less, of all the miserable taverns in this loathsome city.
They both knew that Geoff had been expecting Adder and had clearly seen them walk in. But why say hi like a normal person?
Evening, Mr. Bard.
I know what time of the day it is, thank you very much. I'm painfully sober yet. Or at least sober enough to recognize a moon in the sky, and a lad eaten up by his misgivings when I see one. Aina, what did you tell Adder to make him wail like that?
Which character is
woe
Misgivings
me,
again?
So young and I'm turning hard of hearing. Speak up, dearie.
What was that, sorry?
I mean, Ina was the one giving a gift, so...
I said, which character is Misgivings again?
Oh, stinker.
Right response.
And his teeth gritted once against each other, loud enough for Adder to hear. They exchanged a very serious look. One that said, "Don't." A series of strangely precise grunts and gestures followed one another, under the expectant attention of the bard. Afterward, they both looked at Adder until he finally relented.
She wants you to keel over and die.
Why? Is she too lazy to kill me herself? It was a question, not an invitation. But of course, that kind of subtlety doesn't fare so well around the likes of you.
Ina was considering how to best break Geoff's snout in a single strike, but Adder fulminated the bard with a look before Ina had so much as a chance to grunt.
Cut me with the sword if thou must, but wound me not with the knives in thine eyes! Not you, Cabbage Head, I know you'll do both gladly.
Just being more deliberately insufferable in this scene than he was before.
Well, you know, I
think he likes doing it to her.
Hey, quit picking on her.
Picking on her? Goading her a little counts as a provocation now? 'Tis but a jest between old friends. Very old friends. Aina knows it, doesn't she? Doesn't she?
I said quit that, Bard.
Me? She's the one that casually throws people out of windows.
That's because y'all make her mad.
Guards! Guards! Yes, see, my friend broke a buck's spine, but that's okay because she was mad!
Adder was about to reply, but the barkeep finally arrived with 2 cups filled to the top where she surely hadn't spit at all.
Just the thing to keep me goading.
Geoff grabbed one of the drinks before Ina had a chance to grab hers. She rose up from her seat, livid.
Hold up, boss. Don't go breaking promises so soon. I'll pay you back for that one. Here, you can have mine instead.
Ina took a brief look at the edge of the cup. It was covered with foam, which meant that Adder had taken a sip. Which meant that his lips had been there, which meant...
No, she can't have that one either. Aina's not old enough to drink. At least formally, And she's never getting older.
Just as Geoff was about to drink from his cup, Ina snatched her drink back. She gulped the beer down.
I'd say I hope you choke on it, but you can't even do that.
Ina proceeded to spit the drink all over Geoff's face and then slammed the cup against the table, leaving a crater in the metal sheet. Geoff dragged his hand down his face, trying to get some beer off his fur. He was trembling slightly, but laughing all the same.
All this time thinking you were a golem, and it turns out you're just a misshapen walking fountain.
Will you two quit acting like fawns?
The whole tavern stared at Adder's outburst. Once shame caught up to him, the row sat down again, heaving a long sigh. And then the completely soaked Geoff looked at each other, absolutely flabbergasted. They both understood.
Well, color me surprised. I must admit that being lectured in maturity by Mr. There's a beast in my pile of hay was the last thing I was expecting today. Indeed, this is no time to squabble. It's been forever and a half since we three last shared an evening together. And if it was about me, this would be the last. So I really need to know. What on the face of Dakna is wrong with you?
I'm fine.
You're as fine as muscular I am, my lad. Come on, you can surely tell your best friend about it.
Sorry, Bard, but this is one of them things I can't tell anyone. Not even Aina.
Geoff's eyes and lips narrowed until they both formed a line. Though wounded, he attempted to smile once more.
Uh-huh. We'll go with fine, then. Look at her, I know you're positively fine, but you've been just a little quieter than usual. As in, not blowing my eardrums quiet. Why are you so fine?
I just got a lot on my mind right now.
Yes, I noticed you spend your nights moaning.
What do you want me to do? I can't sleep when I'm worried.
Worried? Oh boy, you're gonna go blind if you keep worrying so much.
Don't go saying that kind of stuff in front of Aina!
Why? Is she not the one for whomst thy heart weeps?
Say what?
I'm going to give you the chance of your life here. Do you want to sleep with Aina?
Just gotta bring that out immediately. Okay.
I appreciate y'all's restraint in not commenting on Geoff's calling other a nothing.
That's like she just sticks her tongue out like, yeah.
All of Aina's expressions are great.
They really are.
Adder got so flustered that he almost flipped the table. Aina suddenly lacked the dexterity to find any of her mini weapons and the accuracy to wrap her hands around Geoff's neck.
Is that a yes?
It's a gosh darn freaking gazelle, alright?
Adder immediately dunked his face in the drink. Geoff's jaw fell to the ground. Aina forgot how to breathe. The bard proceeded to spill the contents of a cup all over the plate, banging the table with a fist and laughing over the top of his lungs. Aina's cheeks swelled up as she tried her best not to cackle.
Wait! All that melodrama! Just for some Barhan lass?
That ain't the...
This couldn't be sweeter, oh you're a horn-eater. This poor hobo was so mistaken, you see. Thought you'd cry for a golem, but you're just too wholesome.
Quit with the golem thing and listen just this once, alright? It ain't about me being a horn-eater or not. I mean, it don't even matter. It's been a moon since she gave me the axe. But I needed to see her one last time, and something happened that night. Something I can't tell Aina or you or anyone. And I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about her.
Ah, yes. I'm sure a lot of things happened that night. Or didn't, from the look on your face. You know, there's not a face unbeknownst to this bard. So tell me which Zell has been touching your neck.
Go tune your ood, Geoff.
Wow, touchy! Anyway, I'm glad to hear that you're a healthy deer with healthy obsessions that don't include lifelike dolls with a penchant for smithery. I'll leave you two friends to your business dinner.
With that, Geoff got up from his seat. Instead of going back to playing his horrible songs, however, he headed to the back door, muttering things under his breath all the while. And his eyes finally drifted back to Adder. He turned red like a tomato.
Geoff, am I right? That bard's 2 straws shy of a hay bale and only half as smart. Sorry, boss. I need a moment.
I forgot which one I did last time. This was an important one.
I think we did. We stayed with Adler last time. I honestly can't remember though.
I think you did. Maybe. I don't know. I seem to
None
recall
of us
you
can remember.
I'm pretty sure we went with stay with Adler though last time.
All right. Maybe.
Yeah, I think GC is correct.
Yeah.
Unless he's wrong.
I don't want to be wrong.
Oh my life's full of worries again.
All right, time to never try then.
That's all, Jeff.
That's how I've lived for the last 15 years or so.
Then look at you.
If anyone could give Aina some definitive insight on Adder's problem, it was the man that shared a room with him.
You just did that on purpose.
Considering that Adder wouldn't miss her as much in the state of despair he was in, Aina sneaked out right after Geoff. She quietly closed the door behind her, taking a good look at the labyrinth of shady streets that manifested itself in front of her eyes. Needless to say, the bard was nowhere to be seen.
Ooh.
Her nose twitched slightly. She knew Geoff was around somewhere. Aina began trudging through the dark alleys and made up Slander District, followed by the scent of broken dreams and time? Shrubs and deer alike avoided her wherever she went. The city knew her eyes. They knew the sound of her steps. Everyone would know if she grabbed a bag and left the city all of a sudden. Not for long, but they would know. And yet, she didn't know anything about those people staring at her. They had no names for her, they were just faces in the background. She wouldn't miss them if they disappeared. Aina walked around a corner and then nervously walked back, lost into the maze of her own undoing. Perhaps she knew the names of people that felt the same way about her.
Boo!
I had to turn around at once, grabbing the idiot that dared startle her by the neck as she slammed him against the wall.
Aina! It's me! Your pal Geoff! Geoff, son of a guy!
Indeed he was. And now the thought of rendering the bard unable to speak another word for quite a while briefly crossed her mind. It was quickly followed by the image of Adder berating her for it. Aina's little inner Adder won the battle. She put Geoff back on the ground, where he struggled to get his breath back. Losing the only person that was better than her at sneaking around would almost be a shame anyway.
What? That's it? Wow, you've really gone soft, shorty. So, what makes you follow a handsome rogue down a dark alley? Are you that heartbroken?
Aina covered her left eye with a hand, then shrugged.
Ah, Adder. Yeah, well, isn't it obvious? He's love-struck. Or love-lorn. Love something. And I'm ecstatic to hear that it's not for you.
Staying with Geoff suddenly became the #1 priority once more, until she realized that he looked as uncomfortable about Adder's ordeal as she did. Aina knitted her eyebrows together. She could barely believe what she was going to do. Gathering all her strength to quiet down her more violent urges, she pointed at Geoff, and then shrugged again.
Me? Do you want to know what I think? Ugh, Aina, you can't just be nice all of a sudden. It's too weird. Ugh.
Yeah, it's us doing this.
Look, I just hope that his heart is hurting for a nice kitchen maid, not that spoiled little...
Geoff muttered something to himself. Then he took his hand to his chin, humming quietly.
Where did that dumbass even find the time to find a lass, though? I recall we went looking for you. I met a guy, and that's where I drop off the face of Dakna. What do you have, shorty?
Aina tried to think back to the day of the fair. The night she spent wreaking havoc, of course, and the next morning Adder lectured her as usual for running away without him. But the day of the fair, she recalled Adder talking about some gazelle, and she remembered calling him a horn-eater, and perhaps all that secrecy was her fault somehow. But that really gave them no clues about her identity. Aina shook her head. At least she'd managed to gather some second-hand information from what Adder told Illigrab, so maybe they could figure something out together.
Okay, maybe he just didn't say she was a gazelle, but he surely talked about her. What would an idiot in love say? Poems. Her mien. Did he talk about the marks on her face? Or her hair? How about her eyes? Did he recite about 4 verses full of similes, specifically likening her irises to sapphires or the sea?
Nope.
Okay, I need to get in character. I'm a huge walking palm tree that likes girls. Okay, what do I want? Her bosom? No, gazelles don't have any of that. Her horns? Nah, you'd have noticed mine. Their fur is yellow, and so is he. Okay, that doesn't help. Come on, Geoff, you know gazelles better than anyone. They have a tail and... Wait, tail? That's it! Her butt! Did he talk about anyone's butt?
I didn't really want to recall the times that Adder had spoken about butts, but she did it all the same. And there it was. I remember perfectly Adder's pitiful attempt at pretending he hadn't been drooling for some gazelle with an impressive butt. Face. For a moment, dumb as it may sound, she felt a twinge of happiness upon realizing that Adder really trusted her enough to tell her any kind of secret, butts included. Anna took both hands to her lips and moved them away from each other.
A vase. Some kind of pear. A bigger pear. A ball. Heavy. No, that.
Is it gonna be a weed?
Can't you just write it?
Tired of the pantomime, Ina simply pointed at her butt. Geoff's face turned into an expression of pure unadulterated horror.
He mentioned a gazelle's butt? Wait, there's more? He said she was strutting her butt? Oh God, no! Not my sweet little Adder! Not my Sebs! No!
Achievement unlocked. Too much
Be
information.
illegal somehow! Oh God, no!
Magnificent.
I guess Geoff does know everyone in town if he's able to go, oh, big butt gazelle. Yep, that's Sep.
I mean, to be fair, you know, like, he's really like, well, you know, like Murphy's Law, it has to be the one gazelle I don't want it to be.
That makes sense.
All right, breathe in, breathe out. Keep your temper in check, Geoff. Okay.
So yes, I remember we did not go down the
fine with
path.
him being with anything but a golem. This is the exception to the rule. I'll give you my blessings, I'll play at your wedding, I'll do anything you want. But I beg you, no, I implore you, keep her away from him, or else
They'll get so much lewd fan art.
Look, I can't handle this. I can't look him in the face right now. I'm going home. Oh gods, I have to tell Taylead. No, wait, no, he mustn't know.
A sudden concert of harmonic bells is the last thing one should expect in the slums, and yet a one Barhan band hurried in their direction. Geoff wasted no time.
Get your hands off my lad, fat ass!
Wow, Geoff. Wow.
What did you just say?
Ina lacked all of a sudden the mental capability to point at the culprit hiding behind her. There was too much on her mind.
I don't have time for this.
The gazelle ran away, trying futilely to hold the bells that hung from her sash together so they'd stop ringing.
All right, that feels a lot better. Come on, Cabbage, we have to head back to the tavern. It's time for you and I to get back to work. Let us never speak about this again. Should be easy,
Problem solved.
Oh, and by the way,
you
I'm
just
keeping
ignore
this
it.
as a consultancy fee.
Geoff shook Ina's coin purse eagerly. She was kind enough to just bend his arm the wrong way instead of removing it from his body, since it wasn't her money anyway.
There you are!
Maxi, when you were doing the casting call for Geoff, how did you describe his voice? Like, how do you?
I didn't do a casting call. It was 2017, and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to pick him from, like, the 3 voice actors I know.
Oh.
And and none of them were like, because back then I had a very different image in my mind, because he was like something like this, like, I hate everything, and the voice actor for Illigrave and the Merchant, Captain Eagle, Travis, he was like, well, I have a friend, and, you know, we tried, and we went through the whole trying to record him for the first chapter with the whole I hate everything, and it didn't sound well. So we talked about it, and we re-recorded again before the VN was out. And we landed in this sort of like, okay, so he's a bard. Let's make him kind of like singy-songy, because like in Spanish, our accent is kind of singy-songy. So let's try kind of that sing-song. And it came out really well. So that's how we ended up with that kind of way that Geoff has of talking.
Okay. I do enjoy how he gets extra sing-songy as he's taunting someone.
Yes. Yeah.
I just enjoy how his personality is just like, oh, is this annoying you? So yeah, like some people didn't get it at first. Like when I first released the game, some people didn't get it. They were like, why is he singing? I'm like, are you just fucking stupid that you don't get that he's a bard? Even though he gets called a bard all the fucking time. It's his job, okay?
Like, why is he singing? Oh, I don't know. Would you be fucking building things if you were called Mr. Builder? Yeah, I don't fucking... No, sorry. I shouldn't be saying that word so much.
So I
let it all out.
Question that doesn't affect you at all.
Me? No. Why would you ask that? Oh, no.
You know too much, Miller.
No.
No.
Why would you ask that?
It's gonna sick Aina on me. He's gonna wake up one day and there's gonna be this foppish androgynous person outside my window growling at me.
I thought you meant me, and I was like, you're about to die, bitch, for real.
Geoff ran in the other direction, slamming the door behind him. The 3 remaining clients in the tavern watched him go without saying a single word.
He must have taken you for a tax collector.
How uncivil. So, back to the topic at hand.
Right. Hey, Aina, come here. This one here was just asking about you. Get this. He thought I was your patron.
I said master.
Hold up. I think I see the confusion. You mean the good kind of master or the bad kind of master? Because I'm neither of them. I'm just Aina's little potato boy.
That delivery. I'm just Aina's little potato boy. That's gonna live on in my head rent free.
Aina couldn't afford to lower her guard for 1 second. That fallow deer staring at her so intently could very well be a spy from the Heirlooms Traders Guild trying to get some information from Adder.
So, do you two know each other or something?
We absolutely do not. You may call me Burbeth if you must spend your breath discussing anything other than this beauty. Oh, look at that skin. Porcelain could never be so pearly. Gods above! Is that alabaster?
Adder and Aina shared a confused look while Burbeth kept rambling.
Is he hitting on you?
However, the almost total absence of a snout and that triangular nose shape do not seem to align with the heavily embellished idea of the Ekain held throughout the rise of Persecurat. A fawn, perhaps? No, of course not. Eyes so detailed, rounder shapes and a small mouth. Oh, look at that blush covering the nasal area and the cheeks. The very expression of femininity. Oh, undoubtedly unique.
Darn right he's hitting on you.
Of course, the Sophie may have had a twisted sense of humor, shaping their servants like us, but they had their own moral standards. My point is, I never expected to see a golem with female features. Could I somehow convince you to part with it? Oh, my dad! It even talks! How did you make it do that?
She, sir. Aina's a she.
Yes, I said as much. Wait, what are those spikes between her teeth? Some sort of defense mechanism?
Burbeth pulled Aina's jaw open with his left hand, trying to get a closer look at her fangs. Luckily for all involved, Adder pulled Burbeth's hand away from Aina's mouth right as her jaw snapped closed.
Ooh! An automated shutdown function with a timer for protection in the inner workings of the artifact. Oh, how fascinating!
Have you lost your marbles? Don't go sticking your hand into people's mouths, you creep!
Why, I would never! You are talking about the golem, are you not?
Aina is not a golem!
Indeed, this is not a golem. This may very well be the golem. And I am very much willing to pay accordingly, I assure you. But to elevate it to the status of person.
Holy horns, is my accent too thick for them northern ears? Aina is a doe! A doe!
Are you
female
certain
deer?
about that? I do believe I look more like a doe than she does. If you would be so kind as to ignore the pun.
So you're one of those does that saw off their horns?
You could have been a fair deal subtler about asking that question. Yes, I file my claws for better accuracy, and yes, I lost my horns. But I am a man. You are no less a deer for having lost an eye, are you, sir?
I get the feeling you're mixing wheat with chaff here. But I ain't gonna judge nobody for getting touchy about their horns. Sorry, Mr. Burbeth.
There is an entry in the encyclopedia on lore for example, on how are trans people seen in the world? How do deer feel about gender and stuff like that? There's all of that stuff is in the encyclopedia if you ever feel curious about that. It's all there. There's so much fucking lore. Sorry about that. I keep swearing. I'm so sorry.
Wow, guys.
It's fine.
It's okay. We're all grown-ups here. Allegedly.
You should see us during when we play Jackbox or Gardic.
Oh, God.
Those streams get very R-rated very quickly.
Somebody's guys pull some content out of me.
Anyway, sorry. You were saying that?
No, I don't care about you hearing me swear it. I care about tweets. Anyway. But yeah, like, if you ever want to see... If you're ever like, okay, so how do they feel about something? It's usually in the encyclopedia, unless I forgot to write about it. But it's very, very extensive on lore topics. And
I like chat's submission of so much fucking lore.
Yeah, there's so much fucking lore. Exactly. And like, also I also really enjoy the picture for Aina's entry because she looks super badass. Can we?
I don't know if we've seen her entry.
No, you have not. It didn't get saved. That's weird. Oh yeah, you saved before that, yeah. So if you click on Aina, and you click on her image, she looks so cute.
I love that.
Nice.
It's more fluff here. Wow.
Yeah, because that's how I draw her. It's just that. So yeah, there's so much fucking lore indeed. And some of these have several pages. So yeah, there's so much. The dictionary, and there's more to come. So there's so much fucking lore.
Nice.
Oh, worry not, friend. Truly, it is not the individual to be blamed, but a society that places unnecessary emphasis on weaponry and traditions from an age of intellectual darkness.
Hear, hear! I get so much grief for having small horns. But I says to anyone that looks at them wrong, you got a problem with them horns? Because I should be the only one worried about my horns.
Indeed! Isn't the practice of turning our antlers to bone as a rite of passage simply barbaric? Without it, we would be free of accidents such as the one that beset me, and your need to overcompensate for your size complex.
Darn
right! Wait, my what?
Both Adder and Burbeth turned to look at Aina. They'd clearly forgotten all about her.
Wow. Look at that face! Oh, I could almost swear it looks offended.
All right, let's go over this one more time. She, not it. I ain't saying that Aina looks like a doe, no siree. She is a doe, Mr. Bearbeth. An albino doe. With a father, not a builder.
Ina's gaze shifted one way upon hearing the word doe used to refer to her. She nodded anyway, not to leave Adder alone.
Well, it certainly isn't uncommon for an engineer to consider his magnum opus a child. It is, however, extremely unnerving, much like your complete ignorance towards the unique characteristics of your acquisition. The albino-like features we are accustomed to stem from the decay of their original paint. The root of her fur and beet red underpaint on this Aina's nose indicate that she was most likely done originally. I see the green dye is recent, though. Copper dye, perhaps? A, bold choice. Certainly not one I would have made myself. With all due respect, sir, do you understand the kind of chemicals you're exposing your golem to?
Adder stood still. So very still it would seem he had turned to stone. Then the stone began moving. He got up very slowly, putting both hands on the table until he was fully standing like the towering mass he was.
You could call her my boss. You could call her my friend. You could call her a zillion bad names and she'd be all of them and more. But by God help you if you call her my golem again.
Adder's scream almost sent Burbith's glasses flying. Panting and clenching teeth was not an expression befitting a boy so sweet. Aina put a hand on Adder's arm. The boy stared at it for a moment before carefully shrinking back to his place on his seat.
Ahem! If your eyesight is as bad as I suspect it is, perhaps you should consider acquiring a monocle, friend, or a relaxing cup of hemlock tea, both of which would do you much good. I am not sure as to how you stumbled upon her, but I am what you might consider an expert on the subject of Basaktarat as a whole, and I can tell you, this is a golem.
She's not!
Is too!
Is not!
Fine. I had been told that Rose seemed hard of hearing out of sheer stubbornness, but let no dear say I did not attempt to reason with you first. Prepare to be convinced, sir.
Burbith's cape flew open. He drew a dagger with his left hand and pointed it at Adder. Seeing this, the barkeep rushed over to their side.
Stop that, you halfwit! They're gonna destroy the tavern!
Who? That fool?
Before even an inch of the tiny blade had been revealed, Adder started running. And even though Burbith clearly didn't have any intention to pursue him, Adder kept running all the same.
No, not the sand fur! The beast!
Oh, not this again! Please! This is a golem! Honestly, are all you villains nearsighted?
Are you sure you're not?
Aina glared at Burbith with all her strength, but she'd promised not to cause a ruckus. All she could do was stand up and watch her brave buck immediately head in a panic to the other end of the room. A night that ran in the opposite direction whenever he saw a pointy thing. Some night that would be. Then again, Adder hadn't said anything about that for months. The only one to ever mention it anymore was Geoff. Of course, Adder had stopped talking about becoming a knight. He knew how ridiculous that sounded, and he probably realized at some point what everyone knew. There was no hope for him. Once more, Aina had stayed behind. She had clung for dear life to the idea of a boy that had outgrown her, ridiculous as it sounded in that precise moment. Aina sighed to herself, finding the whole situation rather underwhelming. She didn't even react to Burbith's approach. The so-called golem expert cut a small gap on Aina's trouser leg.
Now, face the irrefutable proof. Look at this. Wait, where are its joints? Maybe the other leg. No? Over there? How about Oh, that is very anatomically correct.
KO. That still hits as good as it did the first time.
Well,
Just as wordlessly.
The complete and total lack of sound is what really sells it.
Perhaps there was still hope for Adder.
I really don't know what to say. Part of me wants to yell something like, I expected better from you, son. But I'm all about standing up for the little guy. You're all tiny to me, after all. But against all evidence pointing to the contrary, Aina is very much not the little guy in any situation. Ever. And even if she was, you really should be a little wiser about who you pick fights with.
How was I supposed to know that that asshole son of a beast was Lord or whatever?
Hey, we don't use that language here.
That's how we call them pervs that don't respect a lady back in my town.
Making mothers the subject matter is not respecting ladies.
The patron insults Miles all the time, and I ain't never seen you complain.
And since when's that senile desert shrub a role model? What in the name of the Hatsa are you laughing about now?
Quit hollering, she don't know what's going on. Aina, I'm here. Just let me go with her.
Oh no, you're not going anywhere. I keep my guards well behaved, and I expect no less from the citizens, Adder. Mindless violence is not the solution to your problems. But you knew this already.
Adder let his head rest against the bars that covered a small window in the door, making sure to give Illigrab his meanest look.
Look, I'm sure this is all just some big misunderstanding. I know Burbith. His train of thought is a bit weird at times, sure, but he's not a bad kid. There has to be an explanation for this.
He ain't got nothing to...
Kid, I can barely understand a word you're saying. You're gonna stay here thinking of what you've done until Burbith wakes up. If he wakes up. Come on, Aina. It's time for you to go home.
Aina gave Illigrab a very meaningful look.
Fine. You can wait for him in the entrance. But I swear by Ayamai that I'll rake you across the coals if I find a single brick out of place in Addersal when I'm back. Are we clear?
Aina nodded eagerly. Illigrab gave her a dubious look, but he seemed to be in too much of a hurry to make sure she'd stay put.
Alright, so I'm not sure which one you chose, but no matter which one you choose, if you go into other cell, for example, it's going to be a new route, because going with Geoff and going with Adder in the tavern open up different routes. Holy fuck! Shut up! Sorry, there's a truck going in the street.
Anyway, you were saying.
No, it's still going.
I should have an excuse to swear.
So,
Zeronian Entity says last time he broke into Adder's cell, so we will be keeping a promise for once this time.
you'll still get a different route, however, if you break into other cell.
So it's a different route anyway? You rewrote the entire last part of this chapter?
No, because you chose a different thing, you'll get a different route.
Oh, I think I see what you're saying.
Okay.
It's branching. Chapter 2 is branching.
Okay.
It's a branching chapter.
I see.
But yeah.
I think we're going to go with keep a promise for once anyway, just so that we make sure that we see different content.
Alright,
We want to spend more time with Aina, don't we?
Do save, however.
Do save? Really?
Yeah.
You think so?
Save before. Trust me, you want to save there.
Not too late. She'd better behave. Aina took a seat on a sturdy-looking bench and fixed her gaze on the tip of her boots. She wanted to try her best to not cause a ruckus.
So you're not just going to keep me waiting. You're going to keep me waiting in a cell.
But, babe, you know that I wouldn't leave you if I didn't have to. It's an emergency.
Void.
But the ruckus came her way all the same.
Man, if only he were here right now.
Hey, he couldn't make it tonight, but he should be back next time.
Why can't you just let me go home and tell Miss Rochelle that you can't make it today? I'm sure that I can get you a refund.
Because I still want to do this, damn it! Just wait here, act like you've been caught, I'll finish in a minute!
I'm sure you will.
Ouch, girl.
What was that?
Mr. Frail Ego.
You have yet to prove me wrong, Sir Askadath.
Pompous Hussy.
Wait, did she just say Askadath?
Yes, she did. Don't say another word until we're done here.
Just you wait. I'm gonna bring the best wine in the whole of Akathor, and we'll go back to your room, and it's gonna be a wonderful goddamn night, you hear me? I'm gonna wipe that smirk off your pretty face.
The door was slammed shut, though the gazelle remained impassable.
Bring more wine for Jaceve. Oh, Elbar, you're too easy.
In a city with 1 million citizens spread over leagues of terrain divided in 10 districts, out of which only about 5% were Barhan, the odds of finding the same damn gazelle that made Adder sigh were pretty low. And yet, there she was. The gazelle with red hair. The gazelle that, she was really... She had a big...
personality.
Looking snowflake.
For being so good at being sneaky, Aina was definitely lacking in the artist's subtlety approaching others' figures.
Hey, you're the one that was with Gyoff back in the alley, aren't you? Where's that jerk? Don't tell me he got caught too. What? I'm sorry. I don't speak beast. I don't speak fawn either.
Aina folded her arms over her face, angrily looking away for a lack of a retort that didn't involve using her fists. If Gyoff's theory was correct, that snippy girl was the gazelle for whom Adder sighed, hereby proving Aina's theory that Adder only surrounded himself with imbeciles. Excluding herself, of course.
I was gonna say, like, Aina, consider.
Jaceve, as she called herself, tiptoed around Aina in search of a spot to rest her legs. She stopped halfway, suddenly pulling closer to Aina.
That's a curious pattern you have there. Where did you get it?
Aina wasn't feeling particularly disposed to reply.
Say, you wouldn't happen to be friends with... what's his name? Something about a high field. Oh, Adder, perhaps?
Aina's ears perked up as she turned to look at her cellmate. The gazelle smirked, suddenly irradiating an aura of haughtiness.
A green-haired albino... No, of course. He told me quite a bit about you. His beloved boss, Iona.
Cease's line of sight led Aina to her favorite hammer, which she had so lovingly signed, back when the Cyrenar and I and O hadn't yet been given different phonograms. Another reminder of the passage of time, for no Barhan worth their Sandra had stooped so low as to become familiar with such a simple alphabet back in their day.
No, that doesn't sound right. Aina? Wait, Hesena?
The gazelle stared at her wide-eyed, incapable of stopping 1,000 conflicting thoughts from revealing a little spark behind her cynical eyes. An excited young girl emerged from her broken facade.
The daughter of the merchant, yes! My brother had a huge crush on you. He begged and begged Mom to bring you home, and she even offered your father a hefty sum to buy you. But that was when she thought you were a golem, of course. Do you remember her? Thar, wife of Igai? Or me? Any of that at all? Have you forgotten me too?
Aina hesitated. She had a feeling, a hunch rather, that she should have cared, that this was important. Something told her that these were names she would have known had she been the Aina that this gazelle clearly knew. But she wasn't. With a decisive negation, Aina dispelled any distant childish hopes Jaceve could have held. Had she strained her ears, she may have heard the sound of a heart sinking a little deeper, breaking a little further. But little did that matter to either of them. A heavy sigh signaled the moment of honesty was over. Jaceve let her face rest on one hand as her eyes turned to Contim. Is that actually a word?
Yep, it is.
Okay. Contim Aina once more.
Wow.
Fancy that. I was just a child the last time I saw you, but I didn't forget you after all. Either I have a very good memory, or oblivion isn't as eternal as they say, huh? Don't make that face, Pipsqueak. Only an idiot would think that you're a golem for long. You don't need 2 eyes to see that there's a breath of a soul inside you.
It was now the gazelle's turn to stare at Aina until she felt uncomfortable.
Ooh, am I gonna start shipping something else?
A selfish pride that only grows by the day. I see a need to have it all. A need to leave a mark in the people around you. Framed by the vague hope.
You know how people talk about like romance triangles or romance squares? Hayseed Knight is like a romance 50-pointed star.
Yes, and I ship every single point on this star with every other point on this star.
I can't see you at all. Are you a mirror, perhaps? Or am I looking too much into this like a certain someone I know?
Aina didn't understand what this Jasif was laughing about, but she immediately assumed that the gazelle was mocking her somehow.
So how does oblivion work? How far back can you remember? Can you remember your life at all? Will I forget that you exist again if I don't see you tomorrow? Come on, humor me a little. It's my first time talking directly to a ghost.
As far as either could tell, anyway. Aina's lack of response filled the room with a deep, uncomfortable silence. One filled with secrets and regrets, though perhaps not for her. After all, Aina had already been spared from any and all guilt she could have felt over a forgotten story. She never even had the choice to remember it to begin with. No, scratch that, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Actually, Mom told me that people get cursed for doing something so unforgivable that the gods can't look the other way. But what would a kid like you do? Leave food on the plate? Forget to brush your teeth before bed?
Boy.
Listen.
You didn't leave food on your plate. Fat ass.
That is...
So the first words that she says...
Wait, hang on. Was that Aina talking in the game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I really thought...
You thought that you said that right now.
I thought for a minute that was you talking right now, yes.
No, that was not... I did not have... Okay, if I had said that just now, I would have stumbled so many fucking times.
Excuse me?
Adder.
Again, I keep saying how many moments in this game could be like a tagline or a plot summary for this entire game, but so far nothing has summarized the entire game as much as Illigrab running past these two, going, Adder!
Oh my god.
It's like they had to throw in a joke there after insulting her butt.
Yeah, I was like, I looked at those 3 options, and I'm like, one of these is blasphemous, and it's not the one about insulting the gods.
Adder.
Amazing.
Wait, he's here? How did he even... Ugh, never mind. Where's that idiot Elbar when I need him?
Jasif paced back and forth, muttering things under her breath as she looked at the door. But the smith didn't hear any of that. Her mind had stopped functioning altogether. Aina hadn't even opened her mouth. How did she even...
You, Cabbage Head. Make sure Adder doesn't do anything rash.
Her imperative voice echoed in Aina's mind, clouding every other thought. She suddenly felt obliged to comply.
Adder! Please tell me you're still there!
She even unlocked just gals being pals.
Okay, so it's not just me being like, huh.
It's so cute, honey.
Illigrab nearly slammed Adder's cell door open. Finally stopped saying Adder upon seeing said boy calmly sitting on the bench.
Hey there, lad! I have some good news and some bad news. Which do you want to hear first?
The bad?
The good news is that Burbeth is alive and well. He'll wake up soon. Bad news is, you and I are going to be taking a stroll to the marketplace.
How's that bad?
Are you familiar with the words attempted magnicide? Don't worry, I'll explain on the way. Up we go!
Hold up! What do you mean by public execution?
Yeah, that's a thing.
He meant, of course. What was that?
Nothing! Tell me what happened next.
Right. Well, Adder and Illigrab. Lynn?
All that talk about food made me hungry.
And butts.
Great sign you should return to your parents for the day then.
That's, no! We can't stop here. I don't want to go until you finish the story. What if your old bud crumbles to dust tomorrow and I haven't gotten to hear the end of it?
See?
Adder turns to a knight, someone messes up his name at some point, and you're eventually born. The end.
Don't go! Please! I'm going to read even faster. Stay a little longer.
Fine, but I'm not letting you starve. By the moon and all its children, where am I supposed to find milk now?
Milk? What?
Isn't that what fawns eat?
What? I'm not a fawn.
Sure you are. What are you, 2, 3?
I'm 14!
See? A kid. I'm not even sure you're old enough to hear what happens next.
Then just tell us.
My age doesn't matter here. I'm a gaze reader. You wouldn't believe the things I've seen inside people's minds.
You put the bandage on again.
That's fair. I can understand that.
See, there's this one goat with a broken horn.
No, I don't want to hear it.
And then she asked me to foresee if the other girl had managed to pull it out of...
I said I believe you. Ah, God. This is why I hate mortals. One day you're all cute and tiny and full of hope and pulling on my ears, and the next day you're suddenly 2 heads taller than me and thrice wider, and you only know how to talk about... What's that look for?
What are you?
I'm very well done with this conversation. Chapter 3.
God, I love these. I love every single one of these idiots.
All right.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh,
excellent character writing.
Maxi, thank you for bringing this joy to us.
Thank you, bud.
Thank you for playing.
Maxi, do you want to ask a quick language question? There's just something I'm curious about.
Yes.
In Castilian Spanish, are all the Z's pronounced like TH, like th?
Yes, all of the Z are th. Like you only put Z in front of A, O, U. So before E and I, you put a C, and it's pronounced as th too, right? Like in Spanish, it's always th. You don't get if you see a C before A, O, U, that's a K, right? Like for example, Castilian, right? Mm-hmm. Castilian, cock-a-doodle-doo. Fuck, why can I only think of swear words? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. This will be educational for our audience.
No, it's fascinating.
Coupon. There you go. Like as in coupon. Yeah. So that's a K, right? And it's before an O. That's a C. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If it's before an E, that's a th, as in Cecilia, the name, right? Cecilia or I am drawing a blank. I'm sorry today. It's not a good day. So Celt, for example, the culture in Spanish is Celta.
Interesting.
Okay. So
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So in Spanish we won't say Celt, or we won't say Cesar. We say Cesar.
Nice. Yeah, most of the Spanish I grew up hearing was like Mexican Spanish because LA. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. I haven't heard a lot of old world Spanish, so that's really fascinating to see the little nuances and stuff.
Yeah. So there's this misconception that we have a lisp. It's not a lisp. It's literally out of the set. Is a f. We can do an S. It's just different sounds. We have a S sound and a th sound, and they go in different places.
That's really cool. Well, anyway, it has been a pleasure once again. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And I look forward. I hope Cam's going to be able to join us next time because we're getting into so much with his character.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much.
I'll poke him and find out what he's up to.
Please do.
You're gonna be streaming with him tomorrow, Jonas?
Yeah, we're gonna do a little thing, and then later we'll join you guys.
Exactly. I'll probably be involved at some point in one of those things myself.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Well, this has been a pleasure, and may all of you have a very lovely evening.
All right.
See you next time, everybody.
Good night,
everyone. Have a good night.
Night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.